I gotta ask you about this, man. Thinking about your show, this is probably the most legendary episode of your show, man. Hey Blake, show Judge Joe Brown this picture, man, for he can remember the episode.
Yeah, look, let me say this. We had
Before he start cooking, yeah, I remember this episode. Judge Joe Brown is a man of great wisdom, and everybody should, pay attention when that man speaks because it's nothing but truth bombs and knowledge. But I'm gonna go ahead and let my man's cook, and I'm gonna chime in later on at the end of the video. So y'all go ahead and watch this stuff. Oh yeah, I got this clip from the Art of Dialogues channel. You know what I'm saying? So go out there and show them some love and support. Not like they need it, but yeah. So we gonna let this play.
52 weeks of new production every year. And there were 5 days where we showed the new production, 2 cases per year, per day, and that was for 15 years. So that's several thousand cases. I remember that one is real, and as a matter of fact, what we were doing was binding contractual arbitration under California law, under their arbitration, mediation, and judicial statutes. In 2000, the Supreme Court of California issued a 23-page written opinion behind somebody suing us, and they declared that we were doing official arbitration under California law. It was enforceable under California law. I had the authority to find somebody in contempt and have them confined. And since my bailiff, Miss Holly at the time, had done 20 years as a real bailiff down in San Diego, she still kept her authority after doing that time, and she could administer oaths, so everybody was actually subject to penalties of perjury. And in 2007, the United States Supreme Court, ruling on the issue of binding contractual arbitration, said it was done pursuant to the U.S. Arbitration Act of 1928, and it was enforceable anywhere in the country, so it was real. Now, what actually went on is the cases were quite a bit longer than the 7 minutes you actually saw on air. Every half hour, there were 14 minutes of program and 16 minutes of commercial, and it took longer than 7 minutes to tape this stuff because I gave them a fair hearing, and we actually had the hearing. Now, it was real, and what you saw wasn't really as wild as what goes on in a real courtroom. Most people don't get that. See, one of the reasons that the TV genre became so popular is because it struck a chord in America. De Tocqueville, Alexis de Tocqueville, wrote a treatise called Democracy in America in 1843, and he said, unlike Europe, in America, the entertainments are not the opera, not the ballet, not the concert, not the play. The entertainments are the courts, where there's oratory, drama, intrigue, suspense, and Americans flock to their courts to be entertained. I know when I was a lawyer, I would try cases in upcountry Tennessee where they had these huge courtrooms that would seat 250 people at a time, 300, and they would have them full, and if the weather was nice, they would have loudspeakers and people would have picnics out on the town square that was adjacent to the courtroom. So you'd have a couple of thousand people out there listening to the proceedings. And that's kind of why these court programs came to being popular, and they de-escalated soap operas from primacy down to something else. But what you saw on the show, no way was as amusing or as drama filled as some of the stuff in the courtroom. I can remember, look, okay, before they got all the DNA stuff, let's take a paternity case, okay? I never lost one, and I remember trying one. And this woman had been in the 7th grade for 5 years. So she had made a big issue about my client supposedly knocking it up in the 7th grade, which looked bad, right? So my question to her on cross-examination was going to be, ma'am, please, ma'am, isn't it a fact that you were in the 7th grade for 5 years? She said, when I got, ma'am, please, ma'am, isn't it a fact? She says, all right, I slept with those 8 guys you've got out in the hallway. I admit it. I said, what 8 guys? He said, hell if I know. But she did that. So it got into a little further. Ma'am, please, ma'am, isn't it a fact that you had sex with 3 young men that evening? That's a lie. It was 9 of them. I know how many I can handle. So,
Hold on, wait a minute. We got to pause there for a second. God damn, boy, Judge. Hey, Mr. Brown. Oh, Lord have mercy, man. Oh man. Okay, let's get back into it.
this went on. So when we got through and it went to final argument, I said, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is going to be the shortest argument of my career. When you lay down in a bed of thorns and roll over, it's awful damn hard to tell which one stuck you. Thank you. We rested. The judge charged the jury. They got up, walked down toward the jury room, and then the bailiff came back, Your Honor, they seem to have a problem. The judge got up to go look. He said, there's a problem. He said, we've got a verdict. The judge said, you haven't even been in the jury room yet. He said, well, we got a verdict. He said, well, who's the foreman? He said, I'll be the foreman. Everybody said, okay, write it up. So they came back and they walked my client. But see, everybody in the courtroom was laughing. I remember another time, it got so absolutely ridiculous, I had this dilemma. I said, if I take a breath, I'm gonna bust out laughing, which I can't do. And if I don't breathe, I'm gonna pass out. What am I gonna do? The jury is trying to not snicker too loudly about what's going on. So I said, I know, I'll write recess on a yellow pad. Now, I'm a certified master diver, but I was running out of air about then, so I was trying to figure out how to spell recess. So I couldn't remember, so I just said, we'll take a break, and held the pad up, and everybody started laughing and ran out of the courtroom back to the jury room. Or one case, I had a dingbat lawyer in there, and she's prancing around, and she lays all of the evidence out on the floor between the jury box, which was across from the judge's bench, and me, and she comes up to where the clerks are, and she was really being ignorant, and the clerk said, John, I said, let her go, I gotta see what happens with this. So she stands up on the clerk's desk, right? And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, they're trying to get my client to take a dive, and she does this perfect swan dive off. It hits the floor. Splat. Ooh. Ma'am, Officer Duckett, would you please check counsel? She seems to have knocked herself out. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we will take a recess at this time, and somebody call 911 and get her up off of the floor. Or how about this one? Everybody in the courtroom, including the judge and the prosecutors, are ignoring the testimony of the witness. The witness is ignoring the testimony. There's only one person in the whole courtroom that's paying attention to the testimony. That's this big, heavy-set woman right in the middle of the front row in the jury box. And she's got on one of these granny dresses, floor length, elastic bodice, and she's big, and she's got everything stuck out to here. Why are they not paying attention? There is this huge, monstrous water bug that escaped from Jurassic Park that is walking on the ceiling. And everybody is, oh, shit. What is that? Looking at it, except this one big, heavy-set lady. And the bug loses its grip. It drops down into her bodice. It sounds like Apollo 13 taking off, going to the moon. She launches up athletically and hurdles over the railing and lands plunk on the floor, does 3 pivots on one shoulder like the Three Stooges, and then faints. All of these cops run in with drawn guns for the screaming. And this damn bug runs out, and the cops draw down on the bug, and everybody stands up on the seats while this thing disappears.
No, man. Hold on. I got to pause again. No, man. You not. I would have loved to have been in the courtroom to see somebody act like that over a bug. Over a bug. Oh, my Lord Jesus. All right. All right. We almost done, y'all. We almost done.
So the judge is scolding them, we'll stand in recess. So meanwhile, they bring 911 in here. While they're waiting on 911, they got 3 cops ringing this woman with the guns drawn in case the Dennison from Jurassic Park returns. So when they get there, it takes 5 people to get this big woman up on the gurney, and her arms keep dropping. So they keep pulling arms. And meanwhile, they're guarding for the return of this thing that came out of an alien movie. Things like that happen in the real courtroom. Or you remember this thing in Justice for All where the guy was throwing the plates?
I remember that.
Yeah, I'm in the courtroom. I'm a lawyer. It's motion day. There was this idiot who was a city attorney that everybody loved to hate, including the judge. The judge had been involuntarily confined in a mental institution for 2 years, which everybody knew about, but he'd gotten over it. And he got mad at this guy, and let's say his name was Tag. He said, "You son of a bitch. How dare you?" And he had 6 volumes of law books up there, big green ones, and he threw them at the guy, and the guy's dug it under the table. So the judge was pretty spry. He vaults over the front of his bench and is down low throwing the books at the lawyers. So he grabs a whole set of the files for the motions that are supposed to be heard that day. He starts throwing them at this guy, chases him out the courtroom door, down the hallway. We're on the 3rd floor. Everybody runs after to watch the action, down the stairway, throwing these Frisbee-like files, chases him out the front door and a block down the main street, throwing these files at him like it's a Frisbee, and the clerk's trotting along, picking up the files off the ground. Now, that was going on. That's for real. Or Lawyer Brown, you got $50 in your pocket? Well, yes, sir, I do. Can I borrow it? Well, yes, sir. I'm going to punch this son of a bitch right in the goddamn mouth. I need a borrowed money. Here's the judge. Or Attorney Williams, you got a problem with the coat, sir? Yes, sir. Sure do have a problem with the goddamn coat. Well, we can settle this man to man. Sure can, Your Honor. How about at Benton's Pub? Let's say at 4:30 for a happy hour. And before they built the courtroom thing that they've got down there, it used to be a bunch of bars and pubs where it is. These old guys got out there, took the coats off, ties off, and they punching it out. They could throw down, you know. So they were putting on a pretty good fight for about 5 minutes. So you guys are going to have a heart attack. So they shook hands. We buy the beer. Come on in, everybody. Hey, beer on us. That's the way they used to roll. I mean, so, you know, this stuff you see these days, these folk are so goddamn uptight and sissified, they don't get it. It's like, there used to be a different kind of day where you get a whole different atmosphere about the way it runs. You son of a bitch, take the jury out. What the hell do you think you doing up in here? Excuse me, Your Honor, but we trying to put on a defense. Does the court want to object to us putting on a proper defense? Hell no, son of a bitch. But God damn it, warn me when you're going to do some shit like that. This is how it be going on. So anyway, I had one famous argument, another one. I had a client who was charged with first-degree murder. His 4 co-defendants are sitting on death row to this day. He didn't do a damn day in jail after I got him out. I engineered getting the trial taken out of this evil son of a bitch's courtroom and put it in a fair judge's courtroom, and the main witness was a prostitute. So I had all these women on the jury. I picked them. I wanted them to be 45 years old, black or white. I didn't care so long as they went to church. Why? My client could take the witness stand, and his daddy was a very popular preacher who the women thought was fine as the devil. So he comes in and out the courtroom. He's sharp, tall guy with vine down shirt, perfect linen, good ties, you know, and he was looking sharp. And all the ladies going, oh yeah, they were smiling. So I put and then they had this prostitute who was the witness. She walked in where she kept having to pull her top together because she was flashing. Little short skirt with a lot of thigh. I had 10 women on the jury, 2 guys, and what wound up happening is when I put my client on the stand, he could testify. I said, who is that distinguished gentleman walking in and out of the courtroom? Oh, that's my dad. That's Reverend so-and-so. All of it was like, ooh, you know, damn. So I set this up. The final argument was, ladies and gentlemen, I'm finally going to conclude here. I haven't been long. You've heard the evidence, and I don't even sum it up. It boils down to a swearing match, ladies and gentlemen. Who are you going to believe? A hoe or the son of a preacher man? Defense rest. They didn't even say out 30 minutes before they walked him. So, you know, it's like stuff like that goes on for real in a courtroom. People have no idea.
Yeah, man. That's Judge Joe Brown for you, man. That's Judge Joe Brown. Hey, if anybody knows a way for me to get in contact with this man, because I would love to sit down and just pick this man's brain. Like, he has so much, you know, knowledge and deep understanding from the old days, the old ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need that, you know, more than ever, you know what I'm saying, in our community. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need that deep, deep knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would love to sit down with this man and, like I said, just have just a dope conversation with him, just because, like I said, this man has just an abundance of just knowledge and wisdom, you know what I'm saying? And he's not afraid, you know, to share that, you know, with everybody else. But yeah, so that's pretty much in for all of that. We're gonna go back into our segment here in just a second. 1 second, y'all. This is a relatively new phone, and I'm still trying to you know, work all the kinks out. So Oh wait, I gotta cut the other thing off. There we go.